So let's go to Andy McCarthy, a former U.S. Assistant Attorney, Fox News contributor. Boy, Andy, so many legal cases, so little time. But first on Rudy Giuliani, how does something like this work? Obviously, the judge knows, probably the court knows, he doesn't have that $148 million. That's just a fact. But where does this go? Can he lower that? Can he, get this appeal? What?
It probably goes on two tracks, Neil. One is the official formal legal track, which means it'll go up on appeal. I don't think the $148 million is going to hold up. It'll be dramatically reduced. And I think, the lawyers to the other side may know that. So the other track that's going on, I would think, would be settlement discussions, because it's expensive to litigate. And it'll be, even though it's a big win for these people who brought the suit against Rudy yesterday, collecting is, as you point out, quite another thing.
We've got all these various competing legal issues going on. And for Donald Trump in general, there's a move afoot right now to push back the whole January 6th issue, while higher courts all the way up maybe to the Supreme Court decide, whether there's grounds for immunity for a future president again. But where do you think that stands?
Well, here's the thing, Neil. It's kind of a moving target because now other cases are involved. So this week, the Supreme Court said that it would hear the cases of a number of the Capitol riot defendants who were prosecuted on the same obstruction statute that is the heart of Jack Smith's case against Trump. And the thing is, the Supreme Court is not going to rule on that provision until June. So if you're the lower court, it would be foolish to go ahead with a March 4th trial when the Supreme Court may decide the validity of the main charges in the case 3 months later. I don't see how she can go forward with trial on March 4th.
All right, if I could switch to Hunter Biden. I told you we would be ping-ponging, my friend, so
right.
Your patience is appreciated. He did not appear before this committee to talk about his business life, his taxes, all this other stuff that they want to take up as they pursue now an impeachment inquiry. Now that impeachment inquiry has been approved by the House, again, along party lines, but it is what it is there more pressure for him not to do that again? If he is subpoenaed to speak, he better speak, or he's in a world of hurt.
Well, yeah, the thing is, Neil, when he goes, he's trying to create a public perspective that he doesn't want to testify because the Republicans are bad, and if they get behind closed doors, they'll manipulate the story and they'll selectively leak, et cetera. The truth of the matter is he's not going to testify because he's facing 2 indictments, and no good lawyer would let their client testify under those circumstances. But he doesn't want to say publicly, I can't testify because they can use the things I say against me in a criminal trial, which is the last thing he wants to be saying publicly. So what I would do if I were the House is invite him to come back. They can proceed with trying to hold him in contempt, but I think it would be wiser for them, now that they have the inquiry nailed down, invite him to come back. And let's face it, the Biden Justice Department is not going to prosecute Hunter for contempt. So, he knows he's not going to testify, and he's not going to be prosecuted for criminal contempt. He's got plenty of other problems to worry about anyhow.
But, of course, Democrats have to be very careful about how it looks, because they were very, very eager to punish those in the Trump circle who didn't testify before a committee or refusing to, with subpoenas and the like. So there's got to be some consistency there. I don't know how much that matters, but what do you think?
Well, I think the thing is, here's what they're banking on, Neil. They were in a hot panic to get out of town, right? They're going to leave for 4 weeks. By the time they come back, we'll be talking about Iowa, New Hampshire, Trump's impending trial, and whether it's going to happen. And I think they think there's just only so much bandwidth for people's attention, and this will blow over a bit. We'll see. But, I think they're thinking we'll be in a different media environment by the time they get back to Washington. That's
a very good point. It will be a different world 4 weeks from now. You're quite right. Let me finally get your take on this, Operation Delay, or whatever you want to call it, regarding the Trump reaction and his legal team to all of these various suits and legal matters. And there's a difference between pushing him back to after the election or pushing him back to what would be the next president's inauguration. If it gets pushed back to after the election and Donald Trump is elected again to be president of the United States, is that the point at which you could say, all right, no matter what he will do, whether he pardons himself once inaugurated, the statute of limitations is such that it would be pushed automatically back until after that administration is done? In other words, a lot of these cases just disappear.
Well, what stops the clock, Neil, on statute of limitations is the filing of charges. So right now, the statute of limitations lapsing is not an issue. Here's how it would become an issue. I think Trump will not pardon himself if he wins election, but what he would do is direct his Justice Department to drop the case. And that could vitiate the indictment, and then the statute of limitations would be a big deal, and the case would disappear. But of course, he'd have to win for that to happen.
You know, I've got a spreadsheet, Andy, with all of these cases, and it's easier for me to keep track of the stock market than that spreadsheet. But great job, my friend. I appreciate it. Have a Merry Christmas.
Thanks. You too, Neil.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.